Flosstube! Welcome to my channel. I'm Jessie, and this is Magical Anime Stitcher. How's everyone doing? I am recording this on Saturday, March 1st, and it's a monthly Flosstube update. Hope everyone's doing well, and it's a short month, February, this year. It's always our short month, I guess. It's never a year. It's not the short month. But it was a good month overall. And, you know, we're going to talk about it. We're going to talk about my good month, I guess, when it comes to stitching. For those of you who've been around for a while, you know that I took a little short break at the end of last year to kind of decide like what kind of stitching I want to be doing. Do I want to continue making floss tubes and all that kind of good stuff. And, and one of the things I thought about was like, do I want to like do some focus stitching? And really try to get things done. And I had way too many whips or my personal level of comfort. And I really wanted to do a little bit more, like in the sense of, get things done, get my whips done, get some real stitching in, get some real progress. I am a progress stitcher as opposed to a process one. And so I really wanted to do that. So for February, I wasn't really sure what I wanted to do. And then I decided I was going to focus on Greenhouse of Oddities. And I'm going to talk about that in a minute. And I ended up picking it because it's Black History Month, and I had stitched George Washington Carver, and I was like, that's just as good of a reason to pick a project as anything. And so I ended up focusing on that. But in total, I worked on only 2 projects. I worked on Greenhouse of Oddities, and I did a little bit of stitching on Spaghetti Western. And so, but that was it. So in that though, I put in a total of 8,452 stitches over the course of 24 days. Which is about standard for me now. I usually put in between 8 to 10,000 stitches in a month, and that's it's pretty solid. The majority of that is Greenhouse, and I had a finish on that. So it worked. The plan is working, and I really enjoyed it. It ended up being where I didn't have to think about things. I wasn't worried about challenges. I wasn't worried about any of that. And then my own personal challenge of having a finish, I succeeded in. And so there we are. So without much ado, let's get started. I don't know how long this video is going to be because I'm going to try something a little different since I only had the 2 projects. So first up, I did work on Spaghetti Western. This is by Ardith Designs. And I only worked on this on 2 days. I put in 94 stitches because the only time I worked on it was I needed to grab something to go sit in a doctor's office while I was waiting for appointments and my allergy shot and things. I am now at my monthly allergy shots. I'm only going once a month, and so that's it. So as a result of that, I don't have any travel stitching that I'm carrying around with. So, but here's where I am. And this is 2/2 with all of the called for gentle arts on 32 count Lugana. This is Cherrific by Yummy Fiberlicious Fibers. And all I did in my 94 stitches is I started putting in together the corral, the fence of the corral. And so that's it. That's all I did. Progress is progress. But I don't expect this to be my travel stitching. I think that travel stitching is best when it's blocked and stuff like that. And I don't know what I'm going to make my travel stitching going forward, but we'll see. We'll see what happens in a bit. But next time I need to have something where I'm going to be sitting around and need to do, and not need, but want to have some stitching to work on. Stay hydrated. Wearing my hair down today. What do y'all think? I don't normally wear my hair down. It's my hair, I don't have lovely straight black hair. My mom has lovely straight black hair. I have inherited, probably from my dad's side of the family, some not even really, it's not even curly hair. It's not curly hair. It's like some weird wave thing that happens. So I don't really, and so, but we'll see. And I put a little lipstick on for you. Yeah. Now here's the finale. I finished Greenhouse of Oddities by Lola cross stitch. Over 24 days, I put in 8,358 stitches, and that was a little over 50% of the pattern remaining. And so here we are Dun, dun, dun. So I did this 2/2 with all of the call for DMC. This is on 32 count Lugana, Aloe from the Other Side by Yummy Fiberlicious Fibers. I love this so much. Look at this. All right, ready? Well, let's go ahead and do some details. So as you will see right off the bat, for those of you who are familiar with the project, I did not do the back stitching of the letters on that bench, which says these plants can kill. I didn't love it. When I looked at it, I wasn't a big fan of that. And so I went ahead and made that change. But so this is that side of the greenhouse. And then we move forward towards the center here. Don't look too closely in the top part because my stitching started getting a little haphazard. And then of course, went the wrong way. And then of course there's George Washington Carver tending to his plants. Here we are. Okay. So let's talk about the stitching. So I started this in April of 2023. So in overall 2 years to complete this project. And it's just coincidence that today is the pre-sale for the next Sal by Lola Crow, which is on Extraordinary Birds. I will be purchasing that project. I have decided that I am a forever Lola Crow stitcher. This is really wonderful. The details that she puts into her designs is really pretty extraordinary. And like the talent that it takes, just even looking at the birds, right? Which is why I'm going to do the bird Sal. Well, I'm going to do all the Sals. But looking at the birds, right? The level of detail in the birds, just with the back stitching and what they're able to do, is pretty incredible. So, but overall, it took me 2 years to work on it. I didn't, work on it, focus in a lot of times, but this is what I learned about working on this project. Now, this is the first one of her. I have all of them. I purchased all of them. I have Haunted Library. I have the Deadly Aquarium. And I also have the ornaments. I haven't purchased every single pattern by Lola, but this is the first one that I actually started. When it started, I've been kind of a lurker, admirer of her patterns and stitching vicariously through other people. So this is the first one. So this is my experience with it. Because I didn't start it when the Sals started. Well, that's a lie. I started working on the frame, but I didn't actually keep up with anything. And so when I really started working on the project, the Sal was well done. And so so at that point in time, all the patterns had come out and I didn't really think anything about it. And I had started working on the frame, but one of the reasons why I kind of gave up on it and I thought, oh, I'm just going to stitch the frame as I go, is because I was making a lot of mistakes. I was frogging myself, the number of counting, like I was just making mistakes. I still, to some degree, think that was the right approach to it, was to kind of do the frame as I went. Except that when I got to a point where the back stitching mattered. And so I would probably say going forward that doing a Sal, like if you're going to try to do it on time, I don't recommend that. I probably recommend that you go ahead and stitch the frame up and be able to fill in as you go, as opposed to like if you're starting later. So I guess I should say if you're going to work on greenhouse, there is value to stitch it in the parts that she released it in. Now, if you purchase the Sal, you have all of those individual parts. If you didn't purchase the Sal, you don't. And, or at least I don't know if you do. Do you? I don't know. But if you, I don't know when you purchase it now, if you just get the full pattern or if you get the parts that come out with it. But the reason why I'm going to say that if you are interested in Lola Crow, buy it as a Sal, even if you don't start it. So that way you have each of the parts, because of my experience working on this project. Because what ended up happening was that I was like, oh, I'm going to start on this side. I'm going to start from the bottom corner and move forward, right? That was my thought process when I was working on this. And that's what I did. And if you see my before picture, which go to my Instagram at boba_JessieC, you'll see the before picture of where it started. What I had done was I had most of the frame done, and then I had this part of the panel of the greenhouse done. And that was actually part 9 and 10. This is like part 9 and 10. Or 8, 9, something like that. Close to the end. But But when I started to try to figure out the back stitching, for me personally, it was actually very difficult to read all of the instructions. Because the instructions were given by the plant. And she provides a plant index, so it wasn't like I couldn't figure it out. But there was a lot, for me, it ended up being, it created more of a headache for me, and it made me resist working on the project. Like, I ended up putting it away for a couple of days, actually just a day, thinking, do I want to keep working on this? Because I was having a hard time kind of matching the back stitching and things along that lines, right? And so I found myself being like, that's too difficult. So let me start going in it. So let me just go find the parts then. And that's when I also discovered then that if you didn't have the frame in place, or if you didn't have other parts of previous parts in there, then you couldn't backstitch correctly, right? Because sometimes you need the other stitching there so that you can backstitch over existing stitching. And at least that's what I believe. You can tell me different. And so for me, what ended up working, so even though I'd already done this part, I basically, by the way, this is like day 4. Like, I figured this out pretty darn quickly, right? So what I ended up doing was like, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to go by parts. I still worked on the frame as I went. And it ended up being a good thing, because what ended up happening by the time I got to this side of the frame, which I had previously stitched, it wasn't lining up. And I wouldn't have caught that until I got to this part of the stitching. And so I ended up having to frog almost the entirety of this part of what I had previously stitched. And so while I do agree that if you want to do this frame as you go on these types of sals, that there's benefit to that. But when you get to that part of the sal, do the frame first, then do the other parts of the stitching, because the framing is a big part of being able to stitch it well, in my opinion, be able to follow the pattern well. And so what I ended up doing was that I just started pulling each sal part. And so I would put up part 1, which started with the owl. And then it made it significantly easier in terms of my brain power to do the back stitching, because I only had to worry about the 1 or 2 plants in that piece. And so when it named the name of the plant, I didn't have to go check an index. I didn't have to go back and forth and figure that out. I knew in part 3 or part 1, it was this plant that I had just stitched into cactus. And I knew exactly when it said cactus what that meant. So that would be my recommendation. I don't know if you have all the parts when you purchase the pattern now, but if you did purchase the sal and haven't stitched it yet, I recommend you go via the parts. And so I don't always recommend that. In fact, I never stitch sals as they happen. And for the most part, I feel like you don't really need to worry about that. But for her designs, the level of the detail and the value of the backstitching to add to the depth of it, I would recommend that. So anyways, that's my assessment and thoughts, deep thoughts on Greenhouse. So let me know what y'all think about that. Like, you know, in terms of like, as I kind of move forward, otherwise this would have been like a 10-minute video. Right? It still might be a 10-minute video. But like you know, spending that much time kind of talking about my projects, if I only work on 1 or 2 projects in a month, and my thoughts on like stitching it and everything. But yeah, that's it. I love it. I don't know what I'm going to do with it in terms of fully finishing it. I do think it's going to be a framed piece or some type of piece that can be hung on the wall. But for right now, I will say. Now, this is obviously this size of a fabric. In order to be able to, like, it is just a little over half. What is this, a half yard? Fat half. So to be able to get the border on it and everything. So you can't make 2 of these projects on one piece of fabric of a half fat. It is a half fat, right? You let me know. If it's wrong, someone put in a comment it's wrong. All right. So that's it. That's all the stitching I did in February. And now we're going into March. And what's going to happen next? I have brought my whip down count to 19, but I'm about to whip it back up to 20. Because now it's time for plans. Okay. So plans for March are pretty sparse. Again, not a whole lot of, I think I'm going to do the same thing, which is I'm going to do some focus stitching. But my goal for the entire year is, the quote is, finish what needs to be finished. So that may also include a new start. And so for this year, there will be a new start. I have been working on a season series by the Frosted Pumpkin Stitchery. I've already done winter and autumn. And now on the spring equinox, which is going to be March 20th, I have a planned new start for the Spring Garden Club, which is the next one in this line. And the goal will be to finish this before the summer solstice, which is when I will start the last one, which is the summer event. So I'll be starting this on March 20th, and it will probably end up being my focus piece from March 20th going forward. But in the meantime, my focus piece is going to be, for Women's History Month, I Search for an Answer by the Laurel Witch. I've had this in my whip for a while now. I have actually, I only brought the sign. I didn't bring the fabric and project itself in. But I have already finished the good chunk of her. All that's really left is her dress, this massive, massive dress, and the back stitching in the frame. And so I think that this is actually going to go pretty quickly because it is a lot of block stitching. In fact, it may be pretty interesting to see if I can do this as travel stitching, even though it's not my typical type of travel stitching because of the amount of blocking that can happen here. So that's going to be the plan. Those are my two focus pieces for the month of March. As always, I reserve the right to change my mind and pick up different things and work on different things. But we'll see how I feel. We do have a vacation planned in March, but it's actually a staycation. We're going to be hanging out here in Houston. There will be potentially some travel stitching that might happen. We'll see. I don't know how much stitching I'm going to get done because for an entire week of March, we have shows almost every single night. It's time for the Houston Livestock and Rodeo Show. It's one of the largest, if not the largest rodeo in the country. And they have major acts that come and perform as part of the rodeo. Most of them tend to be country artists, but they do bring in artists that are for young folks. They always have a young artist for spring break. They have Black Heritage Day, and they try to bring in an artist specifically that speaks to the Black community here in Houston. So they do have different artists, and they recognize not everyone who wants to rodeo listens to country music. It doesn't mean we haven't gone to country music stars, because we have, but it kicks off. We are going to start our staycation with Journey. Journey will be performing at the rodeo, and so we'll be doing that. That's on a Friday night. We're going to take Saturday off, and then on Sunday, I might have this wrong. It might be Saturday night, but I'm pretty sure it's on Sunday. We are talk about, this is an insane week, y'all. The roller coaster of different types of events. We are going to go see the Deftones. And then we have Monday off. Monday I'm going to have begin my spa week or something. Then on Tuesday, we have tickets to go again to the rodeo. We're going to see Post Malone at the rodeo. So see, the rodeo does provide very different acts. And then on Wednesday, my husband bought me tickets to go see Sailor Moon live. Oh my gosh, we're so excited about that. And then the rest of the week, Thursday through Saturday, we are going to be going to a heavy metal festival called Hell's Heroes here in Houston. And so we'll be doing that for the rest of the week. And so we're like, that's too much stuff. So let's just take the week off and enjoy the week and sleep in and things like that. So, we got a crazy, crazy week on our staycation. So we'll see. I mean, who knows? I might be sleepy and do some stitching and no stitches at all or anything. But if you're interested in any of this, I probably will be posting photos from all of those events. Follow me on Instagram. It is mostly cross-stitching on there, but it is my personal account as well, so I don't always just put just stitching on it. So yeah, so we'll see like what happens with the stitching and my vacation plans and what will happen there. And so, okay. The next thing I wanted to remind everybody of, for no particular reasons, is that if you're not already doing so, be sure that you are following Diversity in Stitching on Instagram. They still share videos and content of people who are in diverse communities, who are shopkeepers, floss tubers, etc. They have a website where they've maintained a directory of that. So if you are looking to support people in our cross-stitching community who are, different from yourself or similar to yourself, I don't know, be sure you go check them out, give them a follow, and go check out their directory. If you yourself are a person who is doing something like this or own a business and want to be sure that you have your work elevated and aware of, be sure that you go register for it, update your profile, and and so they will not add you to it, so you have to request it. If you know somebody, reach out to them, say, hey, maybe you might want to consider putting yourself on this list. I know that I personally always look to see who they post as being someone who has videos coming. And if it's someone new to me, I make sure I go to give them a watch, and typically I end up giving them a follow. So just kind of a reminder that account exists, and a good place to go look for resources and businesses that you may want to support. All right. Well, that's it. That's really all I had today in terms of stitchy content. I guess that's what happens when you only stitch on two things. Let me know what you think. Let me know if you think about the format and everything, Otherwise, life is going as it goes. I will tell you that I don't really have much of a life update. It's been busy at work. It's a very busy time of year for us. We are a nonprofit, and there's a lot of reporting that has to happen after the end of the calendar year. And so we do a lot of that, and it takes several weeks to get to the point of being able to deliver that work. And we finished all that in February. So I'm very tired. I've been working only like 6-7 hour days, pretty much since we finished, just trying to get myself mentally restored so that I can start going back and doing my job again. And so, but I've also been dealing despite my joyful appearances today, since the beginning of January, beginning of January, I've been dealing with what I call mild cluster headaches. Which is all one-sided pain, just kind of around my eye. And I've gone to the doctor. Like, I'm not just sitting here suffering in silence, right? So I've gone to the doctor a few times, and we're on a second round of medication to see if that helps kind of solve it. If not, I'm maybe looking at a neuro referral, but it's not like a bad headache. It doesn't debilitate me. It doesn't prevent me from working or anything like that, but it is annoying. So it's like, fingers crossed, but they're not cluster headaches. They're not painful. Like, they're not like, and I have done Google MD, and I'm trying not to like self-diagnose, but so anyways, if anyone has this thing and you have like a trick to help them go away, please let me know. They're annoying. Some days are worse than others. Like, today is actually a worse day. Today is we're keeping curtains closed kind of thing. I'm not really impacted by light. The door, the windows opens and things like that. But it's, for the most part, it's not like, so it's not a migraine. So don't tell me it's a migraine. I would say it could be a migraine. It could be very mild. I don't know. It's not a migraine. The doctor is pretty certain it's not a migraine, because I don't really have any impact by lights and stuff like that. But when it's kind of worse, it does make me feel like I like a little bit less, mostly because I can't really see as well. That's a lot. That's rambling. TMI. But if you happen to have a suggestion, if you get these type of headaches and you have a suggestion for a home remedy, because I am currently on a second round of medication. I've only been taking it for 1 day, so it may take a couple of days for it to work. But let me know. I appreciate it. Last but not least, Anime recommendations. We did finish the Four Nights in the Apocalypse. I think I told you that in January. We did not really watch anything. We were still continuing on Fullmetal Alchemist Brotherhood. Has a watch for that. We finished part 1 this month, and we did a rewatch of Sailor Moon Cosmos, because I was just feeling like I needed some moon power, you know what I mean? And then of course we are watching, has the translations come out. We are watching the second season of the Apothecary Diaries. So that would be my animation recommendation for this month. If you have Crunchyroll, go and check out the Apothecary Diaries. It is really, really, very sweet, refreshing kind of problem of the week kind of thing. But this character of Meow Meow she is delightful, a delightful character. So we really enjoy the show. We do wait for the translations because I stitch and it's hard to watch and read translations at the same time. So with that, I hope wherever you are having a magical stitching time, and we'll see you next month. Take care. Bye.